With the highly anticipated release of the fifth movie in the Scream franchise right around the corner, I thought it would only be right to go back and take a look at where it all started. The first Scream movie was released in 1996 and it was directed by horror icon Wes Craven. Wes had already made a name for himself in the horror realm with films like The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, and of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Scream was a whole other monster though, as it took the whole world by storm with its self-aware script, wide array of interesting characters, and the newest slasher villain on the scene, Ghostface. I feel it's hard to talk about this movie as it has been broken down frame by frame and its impact on the genre has been analyzed more times than I care to figure out. But I thought it'd be fun to share my thoughts and opinions I had on the film on my most recent rewatch of it. So, let's take a look at it. I think my biggest takeaway when rewatching this movie is the lack of comedic moments it has. Sure, writer Kevin Williamson sprinkled a few one-liners throughout, but I remember this movie being more funny than tense. I'm not sure if I misremember the self-awareness of the film as comedy, but that's just not the case here. The film for the most part is tense and truly unnerving at some points. With how many solid horror comedies we have gotten in recent years, like Ready or Not, Freaky, and The Hunt, I think I just mistakenly grouped Scream in with them even though it shouldn't be at all. It could be also due to the fact that when I think of Ghostface as a character, I think of the first Scary Movie just as much as I think of the Scream franchise. With that being said, I was pleasantly shocked at how dark this movie truly is. I feel when I watch a horror comedy film, the comedy can sometimes override the intensity of the climax or what the film as a whole was shooting for. But Scream's lesser amount of comedy throughout allows it to keep a darker tone all the way through. With the new Scream movie being the first one without Craven at the helm, I feel it is in good hands with Radio Silence as they have had a good grasp on balancing these elements because they did it in their film I mentioned earlier, Ready or Not. I just really hope that line doesn't date this video too quickly. Keeping with the idea of tone, I think Scream has one of the greatest cold opens of all time. The ride we have to take from Drew Barrymore answering what she thinks is a misdialed call to her being gutted on the front porch while her parents are looking for her is one of the most insane first 5 minutes of a film. It just gets darker and darker with each minute, which is pretty much how the rest of the film plays out as well. It really encapsulates what the film is going for overall, while also setting up the mysteriousness of the masked killer. We get to find out Ghostface really likes to toy with his victims, is very knowledgeable about horror movies, is absolutely ruthless, but he's also vulnerable as we see him get knocked down a couple times. Establishing that the villain of this movie is not only interactive with his targets, but also beatable is something that doesn't come around all too often in slasher movies. We are so used to otherworldly figures like Jason, Freddy, and Michael Myers that just seem indestructible. Having someone we think that can be taken down by our protagonist leads us to rooting for them to get Ghostface and not just wanting him to get some crazy kills on his spree. But to have all that information jam-packed into the first 5 minutes of the film by itself is absolutely crazy. It could be its own standalone short film and be fantastic, let alone just being the opening act to the next 2 hours of insanity.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Speaking of insanity, one aspect of this film gets better for me with every viewing. That being watching Billy and Stu's characters with the knowledge that they are the killers. I understand the whole point of the movie is the killers are right in front of us acting super strange the entire movie, and the twist is that there's really 2 killers, but their performances just get more unsettling with every rewatch for me. I think Skeet Ulrich's performance as Billy is the creepiest given how much he is mentally toying with everyone, especially Sydney. Just the fact he set himself up to be caught so he could falsely prove his innocence while he spent the night in jail is so sociopathic, but an overall great character element that was added to the story. That being said, I don't want to take anything away from Matthew Lillard's performance as it is one of those top tier performances only he can pull off. Lillard absolutely carries the reveal of the twist at the end with his hyper line delivery and dark humor as he's being stabbed by Billy. Just the dynamic these 2 characters bring to the movie really set them apart from most antagonist tropes we see in horror films. If you haven't rewatched Scream in a while, I highly suggest you do just for these 2 performances alone.
My mom and dad are gonna be so
I'd also feel bad if I at least didn't talk briefly about our three main characters in Sydney, Dewey, and Gale, played by Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox. I personally think that Courtney Cox playing Gale Weathers is the most interesting character of the bunch, as she just has a cloud of mysteriousness around her throughout the film. We don't know why she was so enthralled with Sydney's mom's death. We never really know if she's a good person but comes across bad, or if she's truly just an annoying prick of a woman. I never really thought she was working with the killers even when I first watched this film, but she is just such an off-putting yet entertaining character. She just has a real interesting charm that is so hard to explain, but I feel like if you have seen this movie before, you can relate to what I am talking about.
If I'm right about this, I could save a man's life. Do you know what that could do for my book sales?
Unfortunately, I think Sydney and Dewey are the lesser characters in this first film, especially on a rewatch. My attention was always on the known killers and Gale, where I just felt Sid and Dewey kinda fell flat. Arquette and Campbell by no means give bad performances, but they are just overshadowed in this first film. Sydney just has the usual horror movie final girl trope around her, and Dewey's just kind of an idiot to some extent, but not in a way where he draws a lot of attention. It has been multiple years since I have seen Scream 2, 3, and 4, but if I remember correctly, I enjoy Sydney and Dewey a lot more in those films. Those films have less interesting killers, and I feel the writing was more centered around them, with the knowledge that they would be the ones to carry this franchise for multiple films. I'm really interested to see how that dynamic plays out in the newest Scream film, as this one takes place over 10 years since Scream 4. Scream is a horror movie that is iconic to say the least. For me personally, this movie sits very comfortably within my top 10 horror movies of all time. It just has a little bit of something for everyone, and it all flows together seamlessly. You want tense scenes? Scream has it. You want jump scares? Scream has it. You want self-awareness? Scream has it. You want to watch one of the best horror movies of all time? Scream is it. It was a film that knew what it was, knew what horror movies were, and brought needed substance to the slasher genre. Looking back, it is funny to think that Scream is probably the reason early 2000s teen slasher movies were made, and they all failed to live up to the clear jabs this movie took at more brain-dead horror tropes. Hell, even its own sequels failed from time to time as well. At the end of the day though, Scream hit every note it was trying to perfectly, and will go down in history as one of the best horror movies of all time. I guess we can thank Wes Craven for taking his love of scary movies one step too far to create absolute greatness. I want to thank you for checking out my review of the first Scream movie. If you enjoyed, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way in helping me out. Please check out some of the other movie reviews I have on the channel, and I'll be looking forward to reviewing the new Scream movie at the end of this week. Have a good one, everybody.